coach. I had brothers who played, and my family, they had season tickets to the Cincinnati Bengals. So I would go to games with my dad, and I realized that I just loved the sport, and I knew I wanted to get involved in that. And that's really how I did that. And I stuck with it. And I told him, I'm like, I want to work in football. I was a producer. I worked as a production assistant. I did a lot of things behind the scenes. As you know, when you work in this industry, you have to take more than one job. So I had some sideline work where I worked high school football. I worked as a traffic reporter at one point. I Major League Soccer sideline from the USL to Major League Soccer, and I'm still working on the Bengals side.
So who did you look up to in the sports industry as a reporter or a journalist?
Who did I look up to? You know what? It's so crazy. There's so many different people. I've actually heard a lot of people who I've looked up to just say, like, you know, I think we try so hard to be a comparison game that we want to be just like this person or that person. And I think it's so important to just be yourself. But I think people that I really admire in this industry, the person that I saw do it and I knew I wanted to do it too was Sam Ryan. She used to do NFL, CBS sideline, and Bonnie Bernstein when I was a kid. So those were the people I saw on the sidelines, and I said, oh, I want to do that. I want to talk about the NFL. I want to work in the NFL. So I would give them credit for that. Of course, growing up, Erin Andrews is someone who's on the sideline, and she's just a triple threat. She can do all kinds of things, hosting the sideline, talking ball, just a lot of different things. Rachel Nichols, she worked a little bit, you know, before at ESPN, and then she's back in the NBA, ESPN style. I wasn't a huge NBA fan growing up. Of course, I like Jordan and Allen Iverson, but she's just really good at her job. So I'd say Rachel Nichols, Bonnie Bernstein, and Sam Ryan were really the people that I looked up to, and I thought, that's what I want to do. They kill it at what they do. And, yeah, those were the three. I would put them three in that category.
So it's, excuse me. So take me back to your first first reporting at a game, and then when you started realizing that you started your journalist career. And so take me back to your first interview, actually, and then first game you covered.
First game I covered, well, I did a lot of high school football. In Cincinnati, high school football is crazy. It's exciting. It's fun. A lot of the football players who play in D1 end up going to D1 in college. So that was always a lot of fun. I won't put that in that category, even though I had a lot of fun experiencing that. I would say my first game, we'll do soccer. I've had plenty of interviews in the locker rooms as far as the NFL for about 5 to 6 years now. And just covering those games and hosting an NFL show that we used to do. From sideline, I think my first game, it was really kind of cool because soccer in Cincinnati was just awesome. The atmosphere, and it still is. And they decided to bring a soccer team to town in the USL and asked if I would like to be a sideline reporter. And I, of course, because again, like I told you, you want to get those works, you want to get those reps. And at the time I was just like, oh, this will be great. I'll get some sideline experience and, you know, just some tape and see how it goes. I never had a clue that FC Cincinnati was going to blow up like it did. And it was really exciting for the city. It's kind of crazy because obviously they're in Major League Soccer now and it's been a bizarre season. And hopefully they kill it in the MLS's back tournament and they can get back to Nipper and we can do some more games. But at the time, I was having so much fun at the USL level. Having sold out stadiums, having friendlies against international opponents, making the playoffs, getting a playoff win in a city that doesn't see a lot of postseason success. The announcement of when they got to Major League Soccer was really cool. But I would say that first game that I did was at Nippert Stadium. It was super cold, maybe 40s in April. There were 13,000 people there, and some people might say 13,000 is nothing. But honestly, it was a cool experience, and always remember that day. And yeah, I'd say back in 2016.
So I had the opportunity to interview another Cincinnati reporter on my show, Elise Jesse.
Yeah.
Have you ever connected with her before, and have you worked with her yet, or not? Or
Yeah, Elise. Oh my goodness, I've known Elise since she got to Cincinnati, and she kills it. She's one of the, I want to say, and I apologize, I'm thinking of all of our networks right now in town. I want to say she's the only female sports anchor and reporter, which is really cool, and she's done a great job since day one. You know, when I see her in the locker rooms. I mostly see her during football season, during training camps and everything like that. But I think what I love about Elise, and I think I messaged her this maybe last year, but she's a mom now. And she doesn't let that stop her do anything. She kills it. She kills it as a mom and in sports and as a reporter. She does a lot of good writing stories pieces. She just put out on WLWT a little behind the scenes look at other things that, you know, I think she digs in. She works hard, and yeah, I really respect Elise. I think she does a great job.
Yeah, so I was just honored for her to come on my show, and like it was like I think it was 2 months ago she came on, and she has an inspiring background, and she's such an inspiration to all of you guys too, and the way she works and the way she goes about her business, and she does like multiple things at once, so it's crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah. So my next question here, obviously some sports are trying to come back, but my issue is for like these players are obviously in a bubble, but like do you think, for example, if someone like catches corona in the bubble, do you see like all these sports stopping? If do you think this other sports will wait until something happens in another sport, or
You know, it's so crazy because I feel like I've thought about this a lot, and I feel like we've come a long way since that NBA game back in March, when Rudy Gobert found out that he had it, and the game stopped, and the world stopped. Like the sports world stopped that day, and really just around the United States, things started to close, and it was just like shutdown mode. And it was like, how are we going to see sports again? Then it was like, okay, well, all we do is flatten the curve, and then we'll be back to it, and then we can have a sports return. Me personally, I mean, it was very ignorant of me, but I was thinking back in March, I'm like, all right, so, you know, a couple months of this, and, you know, maybe a couple weeks, and then it'll be over, and then we'll get back to normal. I would have never guessed that we would be on July 2nd right now, and there's a lot of unknowns. And the hardest thing about it is we've never been through this before. I mean, the best thing we can do, and again, I'm preaching to the choir right now, is of course wearing a mask wherever you go. It's so important. But as far as sports, we're seeing players test positive.
yeah,
So I think the test being available and having, you know, a protocol of what they're doing behind the scenes and saying, yes, we have this many players that are positive, and they don't have to release the names, but just kind of being honest and saying that. And sports haven't really stopped. But to be completely honest, the National Women's Soccer League, they've started, been in action for the past couple of days. And, you know, they're doing the testing too in their own little bubble too in Utah. But I think Major League Soccer, the NBA, you know, as the tests keep coming back, and unfortunately you hope that gets taken care of. And if somebody does test positive, they, you know, need to go in isolation, and returning is always questionable. And of course you have to get retested. So there's a lot of tests that will have to be taken. I think the NFL, a lot of people say, you know, it's going to be really hard to social distance. I think when you look at the NFL as a whole, they're going to see a season because of money. Unfortunately, I know health is it's a concern, and the NFL has to sign off on it. But I think that they'll be able to watch what the NBA, Major League Soccer, and Major League Baseball are doing, and NHL when they return, and kind of go off with that a little bit, saying, well, players are going to test positive, but then it's like, what do you do after that? So I don't think players testing positive is going to shut things down right now. And I'm saying that right now. Again, things can change. Things have changed in the past couple months, where, you know, it could be multiple players and they have to make that decision. But the players do have a choice to sit out. They don't have to play. Unfortunately, you know, that does factor into some paychecks, so you don't really want to do that. But I just think that we've come a long way of being able to be really open about it. That player has it. He's going to go in isolation. We're going to retest all of our players. I mean, it's just going to be a lot of hard work and people being smart. You know, obviously when you're in the bubble, you can't really go a whole lot of places, and credit to the Major League Soccer and the NBA for doing that. But other players who are getting ready for training camp, the NFL, it's scheduled to start July 28th with rookies being available on June 19th, report a couple days early. Those players right now have to be smart, and they have to, you know, what am I doing? Am I wearing a mask? Am I doing this? Should I be around this? And just as far as traveling, just being smart about that. And then when they do get to town, when they do get to their cities that they're doing training camps at, they'll be able to do their tests. And obviously it's going to be different. It's going to be weird, but I'll say this now, and I'm not a scientist. I mean, I'll leave that up to them and doctors, but as of now, I don't think that a couple players testing positive will mean that games are going to shut down. But again, anything could change, and of course it could spread, as we know.
Yeah, and speaking of players stepping down and sitting out of the season, obviously, some of these players are sitting out for the social injustice, which is an important topic right now. So, for example, actually, Renee Montgomery, she's just an inspiration in the WNBA who plays for the Atlanta Dream, and I had the opportunity to interview her also on my show last month, and she is amazing. And what are your thoughts on her taking a stand and making a statement for these other players, especially in WNBA and the other sports? What do you think of her?
I've actually talked a lot about this on our Bengals podcast, and I think what we're seeing is we're seeing action, and obviously that's more important than what people post on social media or some kind of trend. It's what are you doing next? What are you learning? What are you listening to? Where's the conversation? Is the conversation going somewhere? And I think that's going to continue to grow. And I said this on our podcast. I had said that I think the players having this platform on social media and people who look up to them as role models, and that's huge for them to stand up and be honest. I mean, we saw this in the National Women's Soccer League where some of the women decided to kneel during the national anthem, and some were just there for them. And I honestly have no problem with that. I feel like you do what you want to do, and I don't question what someone else decides they want to do. And I think that as long as this conversation is growing and open and more people are talking about it, we'll see changes. And I hope we do. And I feel like personally, like when I step aside and I look, there are changes in a good way that we're starting to see. And I think sports could really impact that in a good way and a positive impact.
Yeah. So now I got some NFL questions for you here real quick. Obviously crazy off season, and I see you wearing a Patriots hat, or who?
No, honestly, I'm a bum today. It is it's a long weekend. I'm kind of just hanging out low key with my friends, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put a baseball hat on because I've
baseball. Okay.
now. And I'm not even a Toronto Blue Jays fan. I live in Cincinnati. I hope the Reds are good. But long story short, we had a game there last year in Toronto, and I lost my luggage. To go to the Blue Jays game to just check it out because it was a really cool stadium, and I needed just a change of clothes. So I went to the Blue Jays team shop, and I bought a T-shirt and I bought a ball cap because I love ball caps. And so it's all black because I didn't want people to realize like you should wear a Toronto Blue Jays. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but no, just a cap.
No, from here it looked like a Patriots logo.
I could see that. No, I'm just a ball cap collector because you don't have to brush your hair. You can just put it on,
Yeah, so some NFL points here. Actually, obviously Cam Newton just signed with the Patriots, and I feel like it's a perfect fit for him. So what are your thoughts on that? And also, Jamal Adams has been in the news recently with the trade request, and I'm a big Dallas Cowboy fan, so I'm hoping somehow Jerry Jones can step up his game and get him. But what are your thoughts on Cam Newton signing with the Patriots and the Jamal Adams situation?
I'll start with Jamal Adams. It's kind of crazy because sometimes when you hear players kind of say, I want to play for another team or put tweets out there that suggest that they would like to play somewhere different. I think we saw that a lot last year with the Miami Dolphins, and they got what they wanted. I mean, Minkah Fitzpatrick went to Pittsburgh, and he's really changed that defense. But I think we live in a world where, like, if you put it out there on social media, you could probably get traded if you never happened. I don't remember it happening like that before. I just feel like it's a huge impact now. I think a lot of teams are hoping Jamal Adams jumps on their squad, but that's to be determined. I think it's interesting. I love it. It reminds me of free agency, which is crazy and fun, and the players are always talking on social media. NFL is my number one. I love it so much. I love covering it. It's fun to see the players kind of do that and interact. I don't feel like they're whining or anything like that. Fun. I mean, look, you want to go play for a winning organization? Go ahead and put your name out there. You work hard. He's a great player. That's to be determined. Cam Newton. Newton, it's crazy. I'm actually, as like I'd mentioned, like an NFL lover, I'm interested with him and Bill Belichick. I think I saw somewhere where some people are like, I don't think he'll mesh with Bill Belichick. I think it's actually going to be a great match. The thing is, what took so long? I mean, and maybe it was, their contract and what they were going to do and incentives and things like that. Maybe that took a little while, and of course we're dealing with a pandemic. But I love the relationship. I can't wait to see how that works out. My only question is, they do have Julian Edelman and a healthy Mohamed Sanu right now. I know Cam and Mohamed were working out just a couple days ago. But Brady didn't have a lot of weapons last year. And yeah, Mo came on late. How is that? I mean, is Cam going to be able to help that offense that struggled last year? I mean, Brady wasn't on his A game either, but he didn't have a whole lot of weapons. I mean, it'll be interesting what that offense looks like. I like their defense personally. I think their defense is really fun to watch and still pretty young. But Bill Belichick and Cam Newton, I mean, I'm all for it. That's why I'm hoping we see a season. It's crazy because everyone was putting the Bills or the Dolphins to win. Stidham's going to be the quarterback with the Patriots, and everyone's like, Patriots are done. Like, don't, it's over now. The dynasty's over. 2 days ago, everyone's like, put the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Patriots versus Tampa. And I'm like, whoa, back up a little bit. But I like their relationship. I think Cam Newton, honestly, you need one person to believe in you. And, what he was able to do in the Panthers, I still don't feel like he got enough credit in Carolina. So we'll see what happens there. But I just want to see a season, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, Cam Newton actually, if you look at the running backs he played with, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Stewart, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And then also I think Mike Tolbert was in there, I think. I'm not sure. But so look at all these running backs he played with. I feel like he can make the New England running backs way better too.
Yeah.
He can elevate their game. And obviously it's going to be a different style of offense that Bill Belichick will be running now. And Josh McDaniels, man, he can utilize anything in the offense. So so the other teams in the AFC East better watch out, because I feel like the Patriots, they're sneaky good. And even if they didn't get Cam Newton, I feel like Stidham is capable of taking that next step for them. But by getting Cam Newton, I feel like they're still a top team in the AFC East. And for me, it's the Bills and the Patriots that will compete for the AFC East.
You mentioned Josh McDaniels, and I think it's crazy every year because we hear it all the time. At the end of the season, where is he going to be the head coach at? Where's he going to go? If I'm Josh McDaniels, I stay where I'm at the whole entire time. I just help players get better in my position with the Patriots, and I don't leave. Sometimes you're better as coordinators than head coaches, and we saw that from him before. So, and he's obviously gotten better. And it would be cool to see where he goes if he was a head coach. But honestly, I think it's going to be cool, that relationship in New England, to see what happens with that offense.
Yeah, and so I got to ask you this. So obviously you cover a lot of Cincinnati sports, and my Cowboys signed Andy Dalton this offseason. But we have Dak Prescott, so hopefully he signed his tender, but hopefully he can sign his contract extension. But what do you think Andy Dalton will bring to us as a backup quarterback? And do you see him playing at all this year?
You see him playing it all this year. I mean, obviously Dak's going to be the number one guy. It depends on, what you see as far as the lead. Maybe the Cowboys are up or down and they put Andy Dalton. When it comes to as a person, look, the Bengals knew they needed to move on. And when Joe Burrow's there, you can't pass him up with the number one pick. He's a franchise-changing quarterback, or that's what everyone's saying right now. All to be determined. But the hype is real. And you couldn't have Andy Dalton. You couldn't bring him back as a backup. And they weren't going to pay him that kind of money as a backup. I think the Cowboys got a great deal, really similar to the Cam Newton, one of incentives based into the deal to see, what he's able to do into the season. I think as a person, Andy Dalton is one of the best humans I've ever been able to cover, and what he was able to do off the field, in the community, just in the locker room as a presence and a leader. He'll be there day one, listening to Dak, help Dak, whatever he can do on the sidelines to help the team succeed. He's a good sport, not a bitter person at all. He had to deal with a really awkward off season. I actually compared it last year to, like, you're almost getting broken up with publicly and everyone's seeing it, because everyone knew towards the end of the season the Bengals were probably going to get the number one draft pick and they were going to get Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
And all the fans were like, Joe Burrow, Joe Burrow, Joe Burrow. And Andy Dalton is still the quarterback. He's still in town. And, we didn't know where he was going. So he handled that as best as anybody could. He was such a professional about it. I mean, when asked, he would be in the locker room helping Joe if he needed to be, and if he was here. So I think that's what you guys are getting. And honestly, he's home. He's in Texas. It's easy, and it was a great decision, especially with an unknown season and dealing with a pandemic right now. So I think it's a great fit. I'm rooting for him personally. I hope he succeeds, even if it's in a backup role, to maybe, if he does get to see the field, to show what he can do, and maybe he lands somewhere else next year, because this year as far as quarterbacks, I'm ready for the show. It's going to be interesting for all the teams.
Yeah. So my next question here, obviously, there's still some actually quality players in the free agent market, and I want to get to one though, Clowney. Are you surprised that Clowney's still on the market? And he made it publicly that his two teams are the Saints and the Cowboys. So I think it's going to come down to money, obviously. But what do you think his preferred destination is, Saints or Cowboys?
Well, I knew that Cleveland wanted him, and he obviously didn't want to go there. So yeah, of course it's about money and things like that. But I also think I think he wants to win. I think the Cowboys are obviously they're going to be contenders, and then you look at the Saints, and I would agree too. I think the NFC is strong, but with him, it really just comes down to who's going to offer the better dollar. It has less to do with a poor team and going there and just making bank and being part of the team, but I hear a lot. Like, I think it's more telling that when players who, you would think sign right away or go to another team when they're free agents and they're not, that it's just more telling of, has more to do with what team they would rather go to. And what his agent's bringing up, to the Saints and the Cowboys. That's all to be determined. I see where some of these guys land, and he's one of them.
So let me ask you this. So out of all the quarterbacks that got drafted this year, who do you think will have the better future in the NFL?
Oh my goodness, that's such a hard question. I root for Tua. I root for Tua because, and I'm not saying he's going to have the longest success. I root for Tua because he had to go through some stuff, and everyone kept saying he's injury prone, and then he was like the number one pick, and then he was injured, and then he's going to the Dolphins, and the Dolphins are really changing things up, and I think they're actually going to be a fun team to see what they can do in the AFCs. I don't think they'll be a favorite to win it, but they have made a lot of changes in just the last 12 months. But I'll go. I mean, this is such an easy softball question, but I'll go Joe Burrow. And I'll go Joe Burrow. Of course, it's easy to say that because I'm in Cincinnati right now. But I think if you're looking at rookie quarterbacks, I think that a lot of people have to understand going into the season that he's not going to take the Bengals to the playoffs in year one. Well, I don't think he will. If he does, Andy Dalton did, so who knows? But I think that people have to remember with Joe Burrow is this is a franchise quarterback, or you hope this is a franchise quarterback, and you're going to have to give him a little bit of time. And I mean time, not because Joe Burrow can't handle it. The Bengals coaching staff has said that he's way ahead of the game. They almost have to tell him to slow down a little bit. You have to have patience because of all the pieces around him. The Bengals don't get enough credit for their wide receiver room. You add T. Higgins, which some people feel like a steal. They got in the top of the second round. Tyler Boyd can play like a number one receiver. When A.J. Green is healthy, he's a top 5 receiver in the NFL. And that's a big if, and we'll stay with injuries. John Ross, he's just trying to get through a season right now, and confidence is a thing for him. It has to do with injuries and staying healthy, but he struggles with confidence. And when he gets that confidence, I've talked to former Bengals wide receiver TJ Houshmandzadeh, who's worked out with him before, and he says that too. He says he's missing that confidence, and as soon as he gets it, he's going to light up. So you have that, and then you have a guy like Auden Tate, who Zach Taylor put out in the offense last year. We didn't see a lot of Auden Tate prior to that, and they got a pretty loaded room in the wideout room. I'm a little more concerned, and this has been a concern for a couple years now, is their offensive line. You get a number one pick who was injured all of last season was Jonah Williams at left tackle, and they really haven't had that left tackle, that strong left tackle, until since they had Andrew Whitworth. So you put Jonah Williams out there, you have Trey Hopkins. I think it's a toss up on the right side when it comes to Bobby Hart and Fred Johnson, but there's still a little bit of question marks when you look at the offensive line and then what Jim Turner is going to be able to do with it. Obviously, I think chemistry is important. So I'm just rambling about the Bengals right now, but I think Joe Burrow at the moment has the better outlook. And I'm just saying that because, I mean, it's easy to look at Tua and just say injuries, which I hope he succeeds. I hope he proves a lot of people wrong to say, like, yeah, I was injured in college, but look at me now. Look what I can do. And he's going to be fun to watch. But, yeah, those are my two. I mean, it's so easy. Let's go to the top 5 right now and then say who's going to have the best one. The number one draft pick, oh, wow, way to go on a limb. But that's what we'll go with right now, and it's a really safe pick.
Yeah, so speaking of the Bengals, are you concerned about the tight end spot since Tyler Eifert's gone now? And also, You know who would be a perfect fit for them? Percy Harvin. I think he's trying to make a comeback in the NFL. So what are your thoughts on the tight end situation and Percy Harvin?
I'm not really concerned about the tight end situation right now. And the reason I say that is because 2018, I mean, it looked like someone threw a grenade in their room and there was no tight ends available. Of course, Tyler Eifert was injured, and Tyler Eifert has been injured most of his career. He was healthy all last season, which was awesome for him because he got paid in Jacksonville, but they didn't really use Tyler that much. They have CJ Uzama, who I feel like will be able to step up. But I mentioned the wide receiver room with all the weapons there. And on the ground, you have Gio Bernard and Joe Mixon. And CJ's, probably going to be their number one. Drew Sample was injured last season. A lot of people said he was a little bit of a reach in last year's draft, but he's more of a blocking tight end. They just don't use tight ends that much in Zach Taylor's offense. So I think they're okay, honestly, to be completely honest. And Steven Carter, he's more of a special teams guy, but I could see them maybe using him a little more in the offense too, but not really. There are offenses out there who two tight end set, one, and the Bengals just aren't like that. And we rarely saw it last season with a healthy Tyler Eifert. So, I don't think they're really concerned about the tight end position.
Did you do you hear about the Percy Harvin comeback, or do you think he's coming back, Percy Harvin?
I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult time to come back, to be completely honest with you. I mean, you're dealing with the COVID restrictions and coaches are allowed at facilities, but, players can't get back yet. If rookies can come, maybe July 19th. If you were injured last year, you can get back to rehab. I mean, it's just an odd time. And that's who I feel bad for during this time with the preseason cut down or players who are available is getting these tryouts with teams. It's going to be difficult, and we won't see that until probably the season starts. So I don't see that happening, not in Cincinnati at least.
So now I do this rapid fire segment with all my guests to come on the show. So are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Kawhi Leonard's laugh or Kevin Hart's laugh?
Kawhi. Every day. Every day.
Favorite food?
Ooh, this is so hard. Maybe because it's close to the weekend, I'll go beer.
Okay.
Did you say favorite food?
Yeah, favorite food.
I thought you said beer or food.
Oh, no.
Oh my gosh, I'm the worst. Favorite food? Oh my gosh, I like Jimmy John's.
Favorite. All right, let me ask you this. Favorite drink?
Favorite drink?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm so bad at rapid fire. Favorite drink? I'm really lame. I'll go Blue Moon.
What new things are you learning during this quarantine?
I mean, everybody has all these little projects they have going on, and I'm just learning that Zoom is like my new favorite thing for interviews.
Thoughts on this Jordan documentary if you saw it?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, of course, there's more stories that I would love to hear, but he agreed to sign off on it, and I felt like he's still the same person that he was in the 90s, and I can appreciate that. All
right, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. So last month I had Antonio Camardi on my show, and I asked him this question about who is the best defensive back of all time. So I'm going to ask you this: Deion Sanders or Charles Woodson?
I'll go Deion Sanders. I'll go primetime.
Deion Sanders or Ed Reed?
I'm going to stick with Deion. And I'll get hate for it, but I'll stick with him.
What are your so the baseball season? If it does come back, what do you? I think the Reds improved a lot. I think they're a sneaky team. I think they can be a sneaky team, especially in a 60-game season.
60 game.
Yeah. So I feel like, what are your thoughts on them? And do you think they'll make a run in the playoffs if they do make it?
Yeah, I mean, you look at this past offseason and the Reds spent some money. It was similar to what the Bengals were able to do. They were really active. So that's why it was kind of a bummer that the season didn't start on time. They have a lot of young guys and they weren't afraid to spend some money. 60 games actually might play in the Reds' favor. Not to say the NL Central will be easy or anything like that. But I think Joey Votto has a rebound year, and I like what some of the young guys can do. I think they spent their money in good areas, and I'm hoping that there's a season. I know they're back. I know 2 players tested positive today, but they weren't even at spring training yet, or spring camp, or summer camp. I'm never going to say the name right because it's hard to say it. It doesn't sound right. But yeah, I think the Reds in the NL Central could be sneaky. I like that.
Yeah, and I'm a Yankee fan. So what are your thoughts on Garrett Cole?
Yankees. I
Mhm.
mean, what do you think is gonna happen?
I feel like in a 60-game season, he can win at least. Actually, you know what? I think he can end up winning 20 games in a 60-game season. That's how good he is.
And that sounds pretty good. I mean, New York hasn't had enough championships. They're owed one.
Yeah. The last one,
Okay.
the last no, no, we had 27, but the last one was 2009, and we're due for one since 2000.
Okay. I mean, you're talking to someone in Cincinnati who hasn't. The Bengals haven't. They've never won a Super Bowl. They haven't won a playoff game since 1995 last. I mean, it's been a long time. So I mean, I'm sorry, 2009 was such a long time ago for you as PG.
John Morant and Trey Young.
Trey Young.
Oh, why?
I don't know. I just like him. I think I like his just personality on social media.
Who is the funniest person that you ever worked with in the station or studio?
Oh my. Oh wow. This is hard. Oh man. The funniest person. Oh, I don't know. I mean, they're all really great. I think what's really cool, and I'm just gonna go on a rant here, and it's not really good for rapid fire, but I think the coolest thing about working in sports is like the people you meet along the way. I think we rush so hard to like get to like this dream job of what we think is going to be perfect, and we forget like all the fun nights,
Mhm.
long nights, the rain delays, playoff losses, and just kind of being in the press boxes late, and just good company. I know that doesn't answer funniest, and I'm probably going to think of it as soon as we're done with this interview.
Yeah.
But no, I've been blessed with some really really cool people to work with.
Hmm. Yeah. So speaking of the NWSL, so me and my friends, we go to the Sky Blue FC games a lot, and we know a couple players on the team. And what are your thoughts on that? Our team this year, and obviously we got Mallory Pugh, and you pair her up with Kari Lloyd and the rest of the team. I feel like this team can, I think, compete.
Yeah, the National Women's Soccer League. I'm just gonna be biased over here. I just want Rose Lavelle to just kill it, continue to kill it. She's one of the favorites from Cincinnati. A lot of people, say she's gonna be just that young star in the U.S. Women's team. So I think I'm kind of more on Washington's side
Yeah.
and hoping they can be fun. I think what's cool about the National Women's Soccer League is there's a lot of eyeballs on it.
Mhm.
They had the highest ratings they've ever had before, thanks to CBS right now and some of the games that are going on. There's actually one going on right now.
Mhm.
I think that's so cool because I mean I know I'm a girl saying this, but I don't feel like they get enough attention. And what they were able to do last year in the World Cup, just showing like we are amazing and we are really good. That their league should get that attention, not just the national team. I think what's cool, not cool. It's such a weird word to say during a pandemic and COVID, but it's if you're trying to find the silver lining, it's the attention that some of these sports teams are going to get, and I think we're going to see that a lot with National Women's Soccer League, with them starting first too. I mean, I know I found myself over the weekend just watching random games that not a huge interest in that team, but the league in general I loved. So I think that's what's been really cool. I kind of avoided your question. Sorry.
That's all right. Oh man. So before we get to the last two things here, you should check this page out on Instagram, whenever you have time. But his name is Global Kid Media. His Instagram, I'll send you the Instagram handle. But he's 13 years old. He's interviewed 1,000 people already, and he's trying to be the first sideline kid reporter in any sport. What do you think about that? And what advice would you give these young kids like him, or young people that are trying to be in the same business as us?
I don't need to give him any advice. I'm sure he doesn't need any advice from me. I think it's cool. I love watching little kids. What I love about like the little kids reporters, and I see a lot in the NBA, is they're not afraid to ask questions. And I think we get into this business, and there's times when I'm in the locker room too, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to ask that. And what if I step over someone? And then they just don't care. They're like really honest, and I can appreciate that. I think the only advice I would give, and it's something that I'm learning all the time, is listen to someone's answer. You don't always have to have your follow-up question ready, just because you're like, what is it? I want to make sure I remember it. Just what did they say? And whatever they said, you can change your follow-up to maybe something that their answer that would help with their answer, and shows that you really cared what they said.
So the last two things here before I let you go, and this conversation has been awesome, and you're such an inspiration to everyone. So, but the last two things here, this is a question I've been bringing up to all my guests, obviously about the late Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna, and everybody who who was involved in that crash, the horrific, horrible crash. It's just devastating. But what did Kobe mean to you and his daughter Gianna and Mama mentality? And did you ever get to interact with them? Or
No, never interacted with him. But I think what we saw with Kobe was, it was worldwide. It wasn't just national, and it wasn't just for NBA sports fans. A lot of people were in shock when that happens. And honestly, I just heartbroken for his family. I think about Vanessa all the time and his daughters who are without him. And it's a hard thing. And I think watching, so many recaps and features. Obviously, Elle Duncan from ESPN put together the Girl Dad speech, and wasn't even meant to be a speech. She was just sharing a story, and it just showed what a genuine person he was, and the impact he made off the field. And I think it was said best on someone from ESPN, where they said what he was going to do post-career was going to be bigger than whatever he did on the court. And that's saying something. And I think we were going to see that. And it's so unfortunate that we don't. I think we do get to hear the relationships that people had with him. But it's still crazy. It's crazy to think that happened this year. It's crazy to think that he was gone. That was just really sad. And it hit differently. I think when we see a celebrity or an athlete pass away, definitely unexpectedly, that we're like, oh man, I was just talking about that person, or I was just, and then he just felt different. He felt like everybody remembered when, they had that backyard game where they're yelling Kobe and hoops and things like that. So I think everybody has a memory from that.
Yeah, and Gianna, that was a horrible thing to see her involved, because she was UConn descent and she had the same exact Mama mentality with like her father, same fadeaway shot already at 13 years old or 14 years old, and she was making her mark already, and I felt like she could have taken over the whole WNBA in the future, the way she plays. But it's just horrible. And I always bring this question up. Well, I know it happened way back, but I always bring this question to all the guests just to get everyone's perspective, because he was one of my role models growing up. So I'm just trying to keep up the legacy going. So, and mama mentality is an important thing now. So we had to keep it going. But the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and essential workers?
Yeah, I mean, I think we hear a lot of people right now who, you have to wear a mask, or, you're going to go anywhere outside of your house and to put it on, and we complain about it, and, it's hot outside and it's uncomfortable, and these people are out here doing work for 12 to 13 hours a day wearing their mask, and they're trying to help us all get better. And I can't thank them enough. I'm thankful for them, that they're there doing it and helping us, and I'm hoping, maybe I'm optimistic or too positive, that we see some kind of relief in the next couple months, where that we go down, but we wouldn't be anywhere without them. So we're really grateful for that.
Yeah, well said. And thank you for coming on today, the NR Hour edition. Lindsay Patterson, man, keep up the great work, and I'll be posting this on all social media formats. And you're such like I said before, you're such an inspiration for all these sports reporters, sports journalists, and it's just and then shout out to Jamie, I guess, for setting up this interview, because she recommended you to me to reach out to you. So shout out to her, and you enjoy your 4th of July weekend, and stay safe.
You too. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you. All right.